In 1976, a small company was formed to undertake maintenance work at the Port Kembla Steelworks. Today, that company, Tolco, is a leading player in the fields of construction, maintenance and demolition. In 1997, Tolco was awarded the final contract for the demolition of the Tallawarra Power Station, located on the shores of Lake Illawarra. The building that once housed the huge coal-fired turbines that pumped millions of volts into the state energy grid had more than exceeded its use-by date by the time Tolco arrived on site. The ravages of time had reduced the concrete and steel structure into a ghostly, crumbling, deserted site. The brief for Tolco was to remove almost all traces of the station in a safe, environmentally friendly manner to leave a clean, level site for future developments. The task included the felling of the two large stacks to the west of the main building, the smaller 258 feet high, the other 346 feet high. The removal of the main boiler rooms, turbine house, the administration block, the 1.7 kilometre ash pipeline and associated structures. Every part of the building had to be dismantled, either by hand, machine or explosives, with all the material components sorted by type. As well, there were environmental issues to be considered. The water canal that supplied coolant for the station's turbines was to be left free of any debris. The local flora and fauna had to be considered. At the end of the day, a total of 28,500 tonnes of concrete, 6,000 tonnes of steel, 40 tonnes of glass, 35 tonnes of timber, and more than 50 tonnes of aluminium, copper, lead and brass were removed from the site. One of the most spectacular parts of the demolition process was the removal of the two stacks. With the two stacks brought to the ground, work began on the southern end of the main building. The size and integrity of these structures, including the massive concrete plinths, meant that mechanical demolition was to be the most appropriate method to be used. Gradually, the plinths were hammered away by the rock breaker. Their removal was imperative prior to the removal of the surrounding structures. With much of the inside of the turbine house stripped away, work began on the building shell. Explosives were deemed to be the most appropriate way to level the structure. Over a period of several months, the building was progressively and systematically prepared and demolished with a series of spectacular implosions. After each stage was brought down, the task of cleaning up and sorting the material continued. The site of crushing, cutting, lifting, processing, sorting was a continuous operation. Progressively, The site of the Tallawarra Power Station was being transformed from its glory of years gone by into a more desolate site. While progress was being made on the main building, work was also underway on other parts of the site. Almost 2 kilometres of basalt-lined spiral pipe was being dismantled. The work included the concrete support structure and bridge work. Some of this structure will be reused as part of the year 2000 Sydney Olympics. Work also started on the administration block, located to the east of the main structure. This building contains some hazardous materials, and special care was taken to safely remove and dispose of them. As the administration block was gradually dismantled, preparations began to bring down another part of the main Tallawarra building. Located right next to the water canal, this blast would prove a shining example of precision demolition. Following the blast, there was little evidence of any debris having fallen into the canal. After several months of demolition work, the last of the main building was brought to the ground in spectacular fashion. Once again, the task of sifting through the materials, sorting and processing as needed began. As part of the processing of materials, a large concrete crusher was brought on site. There was a huge amount of concrete to be processed, with much of it to be used to fill parts of the site to furnish a level area. In all, more than 28,000 tonnes of concrete was crushed. Concrete from the main buildings and plinths was used to fill the underground cable ducts and ash pits, while material from the 2 stacks was used to fill the area below where they had stood. By this time, the administration building had disappeared, and the final remnants of Tallawarra Power Station were being sorted, processed and transferred off-site. The number of workers required on site was diminishing, many transferring to other jobs being undertaken by Tolco. Smaller tasks and final clean-up work was being carried out. By mid-1998, the contract for the demolition of Tallawarra Power Station was complete. The Tolco workforce and machinery were moving on to other projects within the Illawarra, New South Wales and throughout Australia.